murderers and Satanists, and that's who's running the show. That's who's creating the policies we all have to live under. So yes, I object fervently, loudly, okay, uh, vociferously about this thing. I hate it. I hate it with a passion. That's what Jesus said. You're on the right track when he said you must hate your life in this world, and that's the reason. I've got no other reason why Jesus said you must hate your life in this world, because the believers are to be the most joy-filled, happiest, content, peace-filled, okay, inhabitants of the earth. So it's a dichotomy, yeah, and it's a tough one. Yeah, it's kind of a paradox, but you understand that you've got to face the facts. Okay, the fact is that if others are oppressed, nobody is free. That goes for on the face of the earth. At this point in history, nobody on the face of the earth needs to be oppressed. That is a matter of scientific fact, statistic. That's something that's inarguable, irrefutable. So when you understand that God's watching this whole thing unfold, he's watching this coin clipping, the deworthment, the debasement of our currency, and poverty, and people feeling like they're hopelessly ensnared in this cycle of poverty, and because the bar has just gotten out of their reach, and they just see that their lives is hopeless. True or not, it's their perception, and their perception is their reality. And we all know it just gets harder and harder and harder to enter middle class home ownership. And California is way ahead of the curve. So everybody else that's talking from around the world, as far as I'm concerned, I mean, some countries, Greece, maybe, they went through it already. And maybe they're lucky, like the Band-Aid being pulled off. But other parts of America, they don't know yet, because we still have a critical mass of people that are status quo, middle class homeowners. So they're still rooting for the cost of housing to keep going up, not being short-sighted, not seeing into the future, their great grandchildren, and what it's going to be like for them as this currency debasement keeps going on and leads to this cycle, this chain reaction of currency debasement, because everybody's trying to keep up with the Joneses. And if your cost of housing goes up, well, it's a no-brainer to figure out that you need a raise. You need a cost of living adjustment. And so if you've got select people getting a cost of living adjustments while others are left out of the loop, what do you think you're going to get? You think you're not going to get perpetual wealth imbalance, wealth disparity? And psychologically, this is horrendous. So yes, I hate my life in this world that's run by Satan and Satanists. A lot of them are totally oblivious. They're unwitting Satanists. They're arbitrarily, they are inadvertently following satanic principles and precepts, because they have never valued knowing the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth enough, because ignorance is bliss, and they prescribe to that philosophy, and they don't talk to anybody that wants to make them think at all about where does this thing lead. What's it going to take to stop it? I find it very foreboding. It ruffles my feathers. Okay, I'm very concerned about what it's going to take for the mass of humanity, a critical mass, to figure out that this is not good. It is not good to have your cost of living tax keep going up and up and up with no end in sight. The only solution that seems to be out there is just that we can't stop. We just can't stop. The only solution, they'll call it deflationary, then they call it depressionary or recessionary if you ever see the cost of living go down, because then shares will go down, stocks will go down, and everything else. It'll lead to a chain reaction if you see prices start to drop, and they're going to call it a negative. And I'm so far removed. That's why I say I'm based. I'm done with it. I cannot. It's just like, who was it that said? Friedrich Nietzsche. This is what it's like. I'm going to quote it here. This is the Google quote here. Friedrich Nietzsche quotes, okay, whoever fights monsters should see to it that in the process he does not become a monster. And if you gaze long enough into the abyss will gaze back into you. I've butchered that quote many times, but I think I get the gist of what is trying to be said here. But really, this is something we all have to step back from, okay? People out there like Alex Jones that are fighting these monsters and the evildoers, you really need to understand that you've got to separate this pseudo reality that's been shoved down our throats, this horrible situation that we're in, that, there's no end in sight. We know that some horrendous sea change needs to take place that's going to traumatize a lot of people. A lot of people that are establishmentarian and status quo need to be traumatized, but they don't need to worry about it. I mean, that's why I get into economics. I need to explain these things to people. Look, if you've got $10 million in the stock market, okay, on Wall Street, in investments, 401ks and such, okay, and overnight, let's just say, okay, they went to 10% or 5% of their worth, okay, that they call it worth. Let's just say the price, the cost, okay, went down that much. Okay, so in other words, instead of having $10 million, let's say now you're only worth $500,000. However, the buying power of that $500,000 is now worth $20 million. Do you understand why the rich don't have a damn thing to worry about here? I mean, this is what I would really like to convey, that tell people it's okay. The rich don't need to worry. Listen to me. I know what I'm talking about. I know what true capitalism is. I know what free market is. Okay, and that's a big part of capitalism. I know what risk is. You've got to take risk and competition. That's all part of free market. I know what price fixing is. I know what it is not. I know what price rigging is, and I know what market manipulation is, and collusion of special interest groups. I know what's going on here. I know how we got to the state we are. Okay? And it's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. The impact on and the implications on the public at large it cannot be overstated. It's just bad with no hope. It's just darkness is closing in on people. The nightmare just gets worse and worse and worse as you keep deworthing their currency through raising their cost of living tax and telling them it's all we know. It's capitalism, and it's, and it's very American, and don't be anti-capitalism, when really it's not capitalism. It's crony capitalism. The bailout of '08 was about as anti-capitalistic as you could ever get. And so many people that profess capitalism, being good capitalists and free market, they're not pointing that glaring fact out, that this is not capitalism. That was not capitalism, that bailout of '08. We needed to see a market correction. That's capitalism. These lenders were blatantly, profoundly reckless in their lending. Everybody knows that. So this is not incompetence. This is not stupidity. And those politicians that legitimize by putting their signature, they rubber stamp that bailout, these people are every bit as culpable and complicit and colluding with these banking interests, the money printing class. Oh my God. I mean, this thing is, we're in dire straits, folks. And I just want everybody to face the music, face that fact, face that truth. Okay, have no illusions about this thing. We are in a heap of trouble. Yes, and I'm scared because I don't know how this thing is going to end. I have to put my trust in God. I cannot stare into this abyss so long that it drives me mad. I can't do it. I do this weekly video series. I get things off my chest, off my heart, off my mind. And that seems to suffice. And during the week, I write a lot of thoughts that come to my head, stuff I feel like I can share with people that might somehow help to comfort, to encourage people, and to help them to understand, okay, and make that distinction between madness and soundness of mind. And the state of your heart that you want to be. You got to get in close to God. This is why that relationship with God is so essential. And I'm not going to shrink away from it. You could say, oh, well, I need this crutch and all this and God this, God that. Hey, that's right, man. This is serious business. I mean, I don't know nothing. I don't know from whence I came. I mean, we're like the wind, right? We don't know where it came from or which way it's going, but we know it's here. And that's how we are. We came here and we're passing through. We live, we're born, we die. I mean, yeah, I want to trust in something bigger, man. I need a relationship. I need how to contend with this madness. People that, that don't understand and they seem to be giving false hope because they're off track. They're not really going for the meat of the matter. They're not cutting to the chase. It's all about the money, stupid. I mean, let's face it. You want this monkey off your back. We need to get off the junk, man. The metaphorical heroin here, the opiate of the masses, then we got to wean ourselves off the money. The only way we're going to do it is to grab the bull by the horns. And yeah, it's going to swing a lot of us into the wall and kill us. But I can't worry about that. I can't shrink away from this thing. I can't be a coward. It's written, God won't be pleased. You can't just ignore things, be complacent, be indifferent. Okay, prescribe to an ignorance is bliss philosophy because all else hurts your head when you got to think about the collective. And realize that your welfare is inextricably entwined in the welfare of your fellow human being. Okay, until you understand that fundamental fact, you're never going to get it together. You're never going to be truly successful. I don't care how much wealth you've been able to amass. Okay, it doesn't matter, man. That's just temporal. It's like a dream. Okay, God is the giver of all good things. The earth belongs to God. So there's great logic and great reason and great intellect involved in this idea that you have a right, an inherent birthright, to share in the wealth of this planet, to not be born financially enslaved, enchained, okay, but to be born financially free, to get the money masters off your back. You have a right from birth. Even though your parents didn't tell you, your teachers didn't tell you, your peers, your co-workers, nobody explained that to you, but here there's a guy that's explaining that to you, that you're not going to fix your personal problems until we fix these artificially induced problems that are affecting the collective family in a very negative way, okay? So all you people that claim capitalism, man, you better start talking, man. You better start talking about the coup that took place in 1963 at the assassination of JFK. You better start talking about the bailout of '08 and the implications thereof. And you call yourself capitalist and you want to say, oh, yeah, that's perfectly American. And, you know, socialism and capitalism it's stupidity, it's immoral, and it's un-American, and have nothing to do with it, and all this to the communists and the socialists. Well, you're not confessing the fact that this, what we call capitalism, it's unrecognizable. I mean, in all honesty, just knowing the fundamental facts about capitalism, this business of free market, okay. But and knowing and just looking around you, look at the price fixing. It's wanton. The collusion of special interest groups that all have an interest and they work together. I mean, isn't that what a union does? It kind of gangs up, and that's why it turns a lot of people off, that this idea that they're going to gang up on us. I mean, what if they did? What if the police union just decided, you know what, I'm going to join this thing. Anybody is welcome to join the police union, and there's power in numbers and all that. And so we just start making, then we get the legislators involved, and we make all kinds of more petty, arbitrary laws, and we just go out and busting people. Hey, you know what? I mean, you can't do this thing, and that's because we say so. So we're going to make it, make you pay a fine, and that fine goes into our coffers. You don't want any collusive special interest groups. That we instinctively know that's wrong. Okay, that we need to do something for the whole, not just for special interest groups. Because if you look at housing, for example, there's just a myriad, manifold special interest groups involved in increasing your housing costs, okay? And they'll tell you, well, that's a good thing because you're a homeowner, right? And if we are able to manipulate the prices upward by whatever method, and of course colluding is a good method to fix prices, and they don't even have to talk about it. It's just unspoken. It's just the way it is. Hey, you know what? Did you hear that so-and-so raised their rent? And did you hear that this guy's got the highest housing cost? And we've got to follow that lead. You understand? They just follow the lead, so they don't need to, hey, we're going to do this or that. And the next thing, no, it's just, hey, look, appraisals have no basis in reality anymore. The appraisers are working for the banks. As long as the banks are insured and they're guaranteed by their masters, the money printing class, that they're going to be bailed out if they act recklessly, and so don't care about appraisals anymore. Whatever the going rate is, okay, that's it. Who sets the going rate? That's where the market manipulation, the price fixing takes place. Who's deciding that going rate? How is that decided? Arbitrarily. All it takes is one person. I mean, one aggressive investor could come into your little town that was all peaceful and fine and low rent and low cost of housing, high standard of living, and they can just steal blindly from you, gentrifying and buying up all the housing in town. One aggressive investor can literally, with OPM, other people's money, when they figure out, hey, this is how it works, it's a formulae. You go into the bank, you buy one place, they use it as collateral, you buy another and another, and on in that theme until you bought up the whole town. You understand? So one investor can literally create a housing shortage. So then they get to regulate things on their basis. They say, well, I'm not going to put them all up for rent at once. I'm going to do it little by little. I'm going to wait for some natural disaster, perhaps. So there was a fire and some of the houses were destroyed. So then they use it as an opportunity to jack up their rents. They say, well, it's supply and demand, right?